Power can do crazy things to someone. It can make them a better person. It can make them protect the people around them. But what happens when a lust for power grows to be too much and you're willing to do anything to get your hands on this power? Well, that's what we talk about today with Yugioh GX. Again. That's right, we're doing another character video today. And considering how much you guys seem to love all the nice stuff I said about Alexis last time, I'm sure this will go well, or maybe it won't, but you guys still seem to watch it and I appreciate that. But this time we're talking about the search for power that came from Zane Truesdale. Let's get into it. We first meet Zane at the beginning of the series. He's watching over Jaden's duel versus Crowler, and he seems a bit closed off. While not as evil or egotistical or even edgy as other rivals, Zane is very calm and by the numbers. Not to mention at first, he doesn't seem quite as impressed by Jaden as Alexis does. We eventually learn that he's Cyrus's older brother, and, well, let's just say he could have done better. In a flashback, it's shown that Cyrus is dueling against a bully of his, and just when it looks like Cyrus is about to win, Zane stops the duel and sends the bully away. The bully, who definitely should not have the voice he has. Seriously, just listen to it.
The only thing that's gonna be yours is a severe butt kicking.
Yikes. I hope that's the last ridiculous voice from 4Kids I have to hear in this video.
In the business, we call this foreshadowing.
But Zane also reveals that the card Cyrus was going to use to win, Power Bond, would not have worked in this duel. He tells Cyrus that it's important to know the difference between using a card and playing it. He also says later down the line that it's something that can't be taught, but it has to be learned. This whole cryptic nonsense thing can be compelling at times, but it doesn't help when he's such a jerk to Cyrus. When Cyrus leaves the academy because he doesn't feel like he's good enough, Zane tells him good, and that the academy would be better without him. It's really kind of a cold thing to say, and it makes Cyrus break down. Thankfully, Jaden's there to step in and save the day and duel against Zane. Jaden does this knowing that Zane is the top student of the school, and it's a really good duel just showing just how much Jaden cares about Cyrus and is willing to stand up for him. And it also shows that Zane is the best duelist at the school, but not because of his talent, but because one of his best cards, Cyber Dragon, is a card he has multiple copies of in his deck. Something that nobody in this show seems to do, having multiple copies of their best cards. I don't understand it. Jaden and Zane duel and get to know each other a bit better, but in a surprise twist, Zane actually beats Jaden. It shows just how good Zane is, but Jaden keeps up with him pretty well. It shows that Jaden's able to lose duels. If only he lost more. I think that actually would have been more compelling. But Zane walks off with Alexis, saying that he thinks Cyrus has found some good friends. We also learn that Blair came all the way to Duel Academy just to see Zane, because she has a crush on him, and it doesn't really go well for her.
It's a no for me, dog.
It's not really a point that's necessary for his character, but we do just get to hear the utter disappointment in his voice when he tells everyone that Cyrus used to be going steady with Dark Magician Girl, or at least claims to.
When Cy and I were growing up, he used to claim he was going steady with Dark Magician Girl.
Is that so? She break your heart, Cy, or did you just decide to see other monsters?
He just seems so sad about it. Next up for Zane, he becomes one of the duelists to hold the 7 keys, and he goes up against Camula, the vampire lady. It's a duel that he could pretty easily win, but thanks to Camula's shenanigans with her illusion gate, he sacrifices the duel to protect Cyrus's soul. And it's a really cool moment because you hear Zane talk to Cyrus about how wrong he was, and that he's proud of the person Cyrus has become. He tells Cyrus he loves him, and Zane loses the duel on purpose, his first recorded loss in the series. Yeah, I usually don't love the idea when somebody gives up a duel or a fight on purpose, but it did show just how much Zane had grown to love Cyrus and value him as a person. He gets turned into a doll by Camula and then gets rescued by Jade in the next episode. Moving on. We learn down the line that Zane and Alexis's brother, Atticus, were actually really close friends, despite their differing personalities. It's not something I've really talked about before in the video because frankly it just didn't get that much mention, but We'll talk about that a little more later. For Zane's graduation duel, he decides to go up against Jaden. It's a really good duel, and I kind of like the story that Jaden's not dueling like himself. He's using the loss that Zane gave him to change his dueling tactics, but I'm not really sure. Or sometimes it kind of felt like they were going in too much with the Jaden's dueling with his head, not his heart. But I liked it for what it was. And we also really see that Zane cannot live without Cyber and Dragon, because he keeps bringing it back in this duel. Like, a lot. But Zane passes the torch to Jaden and says that he's the new top student of the school. And Jaden ends the duel in a tie. And we get to see Zane laughing for one of the few times in the series. It's a cool moment, and it was a great way to end off Season 1 for him. Season 2, however, things got a lot more difficult. Since joining the Pro League, Zane has won a lot of duels and has been getting sponsorships, because I guess being good at Yu-Gi-Oh! Gets you sponsorships? Huh, who knew? Zane duels against Aster Phoenix, and it seems like Zane might have the upper hand at times, but he loses to Aster. Heck, Aster even finds a way of humiliating him with Elemental Hero cards, and Zane loses. And this is a shock to everyone, and the start of Zane's losing streak. It's revealed that he's lost about 10 or so duels in the Pro Leagues and has lost sponsorships and a lot of fans too. A mysterious man known as Shroud decides to give Zane another chance at redeeming himself in what's known as underground duels. These duels are a lot more dangerous, for every time you lose life points, you get electrocuted. Should be a red flag, but I guess we had to progress the story somehow. Zane's opponent is Mad Dog. Now, in the Japanese version, Mad Dog is a cruel, sadistic monster who won't show mercy to anybody, and he has the voice to match it. I wonder how the English dub is going to handle this voice.
Thought you had me, didn't you, Truesdale? Now you see why I'm the king of the cage!
That was the decision. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, but this voice kind of haunts my nightmares at times. That being said, if he ever gets added to Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links, I'll probably unlock him on the very first day. Shroud gets in Zane's head and convinces him that all of his friends have deserted him. That and having to deal with Mad Dog's slime deck and his antics probably isn't helping. So Zane uses one of his newest monsters, Chimera Tech Overdragon, to completely destroy Mad Dog, and the darkness in him takes over. He no longer cares about respecting his opponents. He wants to destroy them, he wants to win, and he's disrespectful. This is kind of where the story loses me. One of the biggest rules in storytelling is show, don't tell. We see Zane suffer for maybe 1.5 episodes, but almost everything we learn from him is off-screen. Personally, I think it would have been a lot more interesting if Sartorius had shown up at some point and dueled against Zane. And rather than letting Zane see the light, the darkness in Zane takes over somehow. It's not perfect, but I think just losing a bunch of duels off-screen doesn't really help. For the next set of Pro League duels, it's revealed that Zane's been injuring his opponents, and his new attitude has gained him a lot of fans. They're just like wrestling fans. The second someone turns villainous, they get more popular. Gross. And we also get to hear an announcer talk about how Zane's new look is winning people over.
Could the secret to his recent success be in his edgy new look?
Oh great, we have to deal with some obnoxious voice guy talk about Zane's character development? Who wants to listen to that? Zane fires Mr. Shroud and goes to duel Chancellor Shepard. Yeah, apparently he's actually a duelist. It's actually a really good duel, and we get to see just how far Zane's gone because he'll sacrifice his Cyber End Dragon that was given to him by Chancellor Shepard. When Zane was younger, he was under the tutelage of Shepard and eventually gained the right to the Cyber Legacy. It's too bad Shepard never got more moments like this to shine, because it's a really good episode for him too, even if we do get him saying, "Get your game on," in kind of an awkward way.
Now get your game on!
But Zane has gone too far. He sacrifices his Cyber End Dragon to win and take hold of the Cyber Dark deck, which, oh boy, I'm gonna have some stuff to say about it later. But before Zane can leave, he's given a GX medal by Shepard, and Shepard insists that he enters the tournament. Zane has no real qualms about winning, but he does want to face strong opponents, so he decides to take part. Chancellor Shepard, in actually a pretty cool proactive moment, requests that Atticus duels Zane. Atticus even decides to use the power of Night Shroud to go up against this new version of Zane, claiming that maybe only darkness can save Zane from the darkness, just hoping that they can both survive afterwards. But in a shocking move, Zane plays Power Wall, a card that makes him toss out most of his deck in order to protect himself against damage. It just shows how far Zane's willing to go and that he respects nobody, not even his own cards. He beats Atticus and gets rid of Night Shroud, and I'm sure we'll never see Night Shroud again. Having enough of his brother's new attitude, Cyrus challenges Zane to a duel, but Zane agrees only if Cyrus wears the same electrodes that Zane's been wearing in underground duels. It's really hard to watch just seeing how much Cyrus is suffering from these, and it gets a little creepy when we hear just how much Zane is enjoying himself with this. I'm sure that line from Zane awakened a lot of things in people, but I don't want to think about it. Zane beats Cyrus in a really good duel and injures him. Kind of surprising that there was no moment of Zane maybe questioning what he's doing to his own little brother. That maybe could have helped the story, but oh well. The last time we see him this season is he's rejecting a duel from Blair. Not that I was necessarily looking forward to these two dueling, but it's kind of an anticlimactic send-off as he just leaves. And what does this new, dark, edgy, almost evil Zane do the next time we see him? He helps the gang summon Rainbow Dragon by dueling against Jesse. Yeah, to this day, I still don't really understand it. The last time we saw him, he was injuring people and completely okay with it. But now he's helping the gang like they're all friends again? I understand that maybe he just wants to duel Jesse again because Jesse's a strong duelist, but his somewhat change in attitude never fully gets explained, and it kind of hurts the character. It never made sense to me as a kid, and it doesn't make sense to me now that I'm older. Moving on. Zane and Jesse have their duel, and eventually their energy is enough to create the Rainbow Dragon card. They all escape, and everything seems fine. Until they learn Jesse didn't escape and they have to go back to another dimension to save him. Because that's what Yugioh GX is about, right? Before they go back to the other dimension though, we see Zane and Aster kind of chumming it up with each other. They both kind of feel like tsunderes who won't really admit that these characters are in fact their friends that care about them. I don't know why, but now that I'm older I kind of appreciate it a little more. It's around this time where Zane learns about Yubel's existence and wants to duel them in a final duel. Why is it a final duel? Well, it's been revealed that the electrodes that Zane's been using on his underground duels have been taking a toll on his heart, and he wants to have one final epic duel before he dies, or, I don't know, goes to the Shadow Realm. It's for kids, what do you expect? Zane and Aster actually have some pretty kick-ass moments in this arc, where they go up against a lot of other duel soldiers underneath the Supreme King, and save a good majority of monsters, including King, Queen, and Jack's Knight. He also admits that, alongside Aster, that he'd rather just kick the door down rather than going in stealthily at a certain point, and he even says, "Let's get our game on."
Let's get our game on.
Okay, Jaden, you're starting to infect people with that. After the Supreme King is defeated, Zane notices just how much internal struggle Jaden's going through with all the guilt he feels of hurting all these people and sending them to the stars. Okay, so it's not the Shallow Realm, but it's the same thing, basically. He continually berates Jaden about how he can't win with fear in his heart, and decides to rescue Jesse on his own. But before the duel between him and Jaden can end, his heart starts to give out again. Jaden moves on, and Crowler stays with Zane. In a last-ditch effort to save Jesse from Yubel, Zane duels them, and it's a pretty heartbreaking duel because you see just how much Zane's going through, and how every attack and loss of life points is taking its toll on him, which exactly why Jesse Yubel decides to make a heart attack joke.
Now that's what I call a heart attack. So tell me, Zane, was that move a real heart stopper?
Okay, even by 4Kids standards, that feels a little weird. But through some tricks, Zane's able to summon Cyber End Dragon with 16,000 attack points. But the duel ends there. Power Bond's effect takes its toll on the last remaining life points for Zane. That's right, the card that he was always warning Cyrus about using is the card that does him in, and he loses. During the last few moments, Zane talks about how Jaden and Cyrus will have to look over each other, and even responds that Jaden's a pretty good big brother to Cyrus. All the more funny considering Cyrus calls Jaden bro in the Japanese version, but he disappears and dies, or is sent to the stars, as Jaden, Cyrus, Crowler, and Bastion cry out. And then he returns to life in Season 4 with no explanation as to how the hell that happened. Look, I'm okay with him living if it makes sense, but the fact that it never really got focused on or we were told how Zane survived never really sat well with me. Cyrus even discovers that Zane's heart wasn't failing because of the electrodes he was using, it was failing because of the Cyber Dark Deck. What? So you're telling me all of those duels where Zane was getting shocked 24/7 just didn't matter? It was just because of the Cyber Dark deck? That really weakens things for me, because it shows that all of the horrible stuff Zane was doing to people, there was no karma for it. It was simply just trading cards, and I'll never understand how people who make these cards are able to make them injure or hurt people. I really would have just preferred if the electrodes themselves were doing it as opposed to the cards, but whatever. He gets challenged to a duel by Makoto Inotsume, a member of the Jinzo Legacy deck. This has always been something that's kind of been interesting to me. If we ever got a Yu-Gi-Oh series that actually focused on archetypes, I'd love to see rivalries and stories like this be built, but maybe someday. Zane tries to duel, but his heart is still in rough shape. Cyrus takes over, beats Makoto, and Zane realizes just how much Cyrus has grown, and he decides to dedicate himself to getting a brand new deck from start, and creating a Cyber League alongside Cyrus. Oh, and since I've been doing this for some of the other characters, in Tag Force, his Dark Zane story really isn't all that great, in my opinion. It's nothing horrible, it's just him dueling against other people and still realizing that you can respect your opponents. Not nearly as compelling as the anime in some ways, but still nice. And he also gets a story in his Obelisk Blue attire. It's a lot of duels against Atticus. Atticus trying to get Zane a date, Atticus trying to get more and more people to notice Zane. It gets some pretty awkward moments, but it's kind of charming to see just how Zane acts around somebody as wild and silly as Atticus. And overall, that's Zane's character and development through Yugioh GX, and I for one think it's really solid. But there's a lot of it that could have been fixed. For example, I still don't love how he loses off-screen, and that's what causes him to become dark. I'm not a fan of him being dark for a good bit and then magically becoming a nicer person with no explanation in between seasons. And the whole thing between his electrodes and the Cyber Dark deck really is just kind of messy. But overall, I still think Zane's character arc is pretty strong. A prideful yet still likable character who respects people, but the second he gets a taste of more and more power, succumbs to the darkness and leaves it all behind. He eventually grows back into the person we all love and know, but it's not without its karma and without its consequences. Well, for the most part. I will say, as I got older, I did appreciate the scene with Shepard where it's revealed that Zane is a prodigy. It makes his stance with Cyrus all the more interesting. Cyrus had to struggle and work hard for his success, while Zane was almost bred for it. It makes it all the more unique that the two didn't always see eye to eye at first. But that's Zane, while a bit messy at times, a character worthy of the nickname Kaiser. But what do you guys think? Were my nitpicks of Zane justified? Is he a great character otherwise? Did you have any problems with him that I didn't bring up? Let me know. And don't worry, the next Yu-Gi-Oh! GX character video is coming a lot sooner than you think. I wonder what character's destiny we'll be looking after next. Oh well. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, tell me what you think, be good to yourselves and each other, and I'll see you next time. This is Alex saying, women who ask, what's more important, me or work, deserve a German suplex. Oh god, I just reminded myself of that Gintama episode. Never mind, forget I said that. Turn it off. Turn it off!